Do you have a story to share with the world? Of course you do. We all have stories to share. An Anchor podcast allows you to share your interests in a way that connects to others all across the globe. If you have been considering starting your own podcast and don't know where to begin, Anchor makes it easy to record, edit, and publish with the click of a button. You can even add music. Whether it's crime dramas, self-improvement, paranormal adventures, or tips about parenting, you too can share your unique imprint on the world. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. You've got this. I believe in you. Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tools and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. So I'm excited to share with you today a topic that I have been diving into, and I've also found someone else who's been diving into it as well. So I have a guest with me today. His name is Steve Noack, and Steve is a quantum healer, a spiritual counselor, as well as a near-death survivor. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So today's topic, we are going to talk about utilizing the power of the mind to enlighten the nervous system, specifically with a lot of the anxiety going around in the collective consciousness right now. Steve and I thought that this would be a really good topic to dive into on a more quantum level, to have a deeper understanding as to how and why our nervous system is reacting the way that it is and how our mind plays a role in that process. So Steve, where should we begin on this topic?
Boy, well, I'll give you a very, very quick rundown of my near-death experience. It sort of showed me a blueprint of everything that was underneath what we see right now inside matter as, I don't know, you want to call it it looks like a blueprint, you build on it, but it was pristine and perfect and clear, and pain or anger didn't exist there. Well, I also found out that we had a file there. It's some sort of, I don't know, etched in stone, seared in time, place that we could call back to ourselves. It was our original blueprint. And they showed me how the beings that I sat with, I was run completely over by a car. And I sat with them and spoke with them, and they had no faces, just light and cloaks. So they told me to put my head down. Returned later in my life, and then that's when I started healing stuff. But they told me there's the call in your blueprint, and this is sort of your original creation made of love, because all of us are made of that energy, and we part it out in density to experience this reality and understand it, because we're looping reality through our system all the time, through our nervous system, in order to understand it and compute it in a physical level to where our brains understand it.
Absolutely. And I think for me, learning when I'm in that loop process and consciously recognizing it has been a huge factor in my growth and my expansion, in consciousness. And so,
yeah, recognizing those patterns.
Yes. And understanding that you can change that and you can, fix that. And I think that, that's where we move into these quantum realms and these, quantum aspects of being able to heal on a much deeper cellular, level. And so, when you talk about the blueprint, what does that divine blueprint look like? What did that look like to you in that near-death experience? I mean, can you explain that?
It was like at first it was translucent and blue, and I looked over to my right, and then it sort of changed into sort of what we experience when we lucid dream, where things just have energy flowing off of them, and they're not really matter, but they do have value and a richness that we don't really understand here. To me, this is a lot less real than over there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was perfect. It just resonated in such a way that there are frequencies and things that we are not going to be able to bring there. So that's why all the masters tell us to love, to love, to love. To return, you come as love. and sort of learn your way back to that resonance, but we're not really given the tools on a quantum level, really, you know?
Yeah, it's like we've got to kind of learn it on our own. And I think for me, it's been just that process of learning discernment and diving a little bit deeper into that quantum field. And I don't know about you, but I can tell when my cells are reprogramming. It's like I call it a quantum or a cosmic orgasm, because it literally is a ripple from the bottom of my feet all the way up throughout my, my crown. And just yesterday alone, I started to dabble, and you talked about this frequencies and resonance. I started to utilize 144 hertz pure tone, and I would just listen to it, and I would get into what's called the void. And I know when I'm in the void in that meditative state, because there's a lot of purple swirling colors in my third eye. Well, I got in there and I started to work with the divine blueprint, literally in my mind. It was like I was seeing sacred geometry over my head, almost like a little Merkaba shaped deal. And as I went through that process, the purple started to change into more of a golden, color. So I knew, and then I started to get those ripples, through my body. So it's almost like you can feel when your cells shift. At least I can. It's almost like they're all running around trying to find a new,
absolutely,
a new sacred geometry pattern or something. But just yesterday, I had that experience.
And that's the hidden key. It's like all matter needs a frequency to tell it how to behave. Otherwise, our molecules would float off in space. And that's the other part of it. It's our quantum mechanics, and that relates to our health. It relates to our generation of reality within our nervous system. And there's so many things, and then I don't want to go out too far off into the plugins for identity yet.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is that many on the planet now are in fight, flight, or freeze response. Their amygdala is just firing like nobody's business, right? And so I think for me, learning how to turn off that fight, flight, or freeze response was a huge kind of healing aspect for me. And I recognize that now with people. I can just sense when I'm working with clients that their amygdala is just firing on all, cylinders. And so, what are some tools or techniques or, ways that you recognize that you can, often help people, to, kind of deactivate that fight, flight, or freeze response in their nervous system?
The first thing I have my clients do, and then what I do, and I know works for me, is I connect to Holy Spirit. But we have to look at the word holy, and we understand it means pure. So I'm asking for this pure invocation of energy. I understand this to be on a quantum level, light, photons, things like that. But it's not necessary for like a religious person to understand that, or anybody else. You ask Holy Spirit, pure spirit, into your consciousness. You ask the spirit that's inside to expand, and then you ask God or source to surround you. And we're talking about time, space, and matter. Time being when we are, space being where we are, and matter being what we are at this moment. And we're connecting a circuit now. And you want to introduce a little bit of breathing. So basically you ask spirit in your consciousness, you ask spirit in you to expand, spirit to surround you, do a little breathing. And you can even ask Mother Earth to come from below and give you peace, things like that. The important part is to do it with breathing, calm, and allow yourself to feel, because you're trying to create pathways between yourself and the quantum field. And you want to give that time for those signals to remember themselves, going back and forth. Another powerful one is ask your inner child to become present. I ask my inner child to become present. Thank you. I ask my inner child to show me what love feels like, and allow this signal to hit your system. I ask my inner child to show me what joy feels like. I ask my inner child to show me what excitement feels like. I ask my inner child to show me what innocence feels like. And this gives us all those pure feelings and that real richness for this life. And then we start to treat everything around us like it's sacred, because it feels that way from the eyes of a child, from the heart of a child.
I love that, because I do feel like many of us, we have to dive in deeper to heal that inner child aspect, because that's where a lot of these programs were created, so
Yeah.
going back and really resetting, that DNA structure, or, through, I know Bruce Lipton, I follow him a lot. He talks a lot about epigenetics and, being the modification of the gene expression, looking at behaviors in our, our environment, and how that affects, the way our genes work. And so, when we are children, if we're constantly on high alert, or there's something in our life that's causing us stress and anxiety, carrying that through our adult life, I think it's so important, to go back to heal those inner child aspects, and to touch on the purity of it, the love, the joy, the bliss, the peace, the innocence. Those are things that as adults we've lost touch with because of traumas, in our early life.
Yeah. And also try to look at it as like, okay, I'm in this energetic system. I'm going to send out this value. I'm going to get this value in return, as long as I'm engaging it, with the purpose to heal. And understand you're the controller inside yourself. None of these things happened in the past. Nothing that says you're this identity. You're the controller in there, and you can really free yourself from all these, any behaviors that you feel like hold you back from living,
And it's also becoming consciously aware of them. I think many of us are running on programs. We don't even realize that, when we were in third grade and someone bullied us and pushed us, and we're still carrying it into our 30s, 40s, and 50s,
right?
This sense of worthiness, or, whatever it may be. And so I think that's where a lot of people
where pulling
are
like, wow. Right. That's where pulling that light in is important, because you need that mirror inside you. You can't intuitively discern if your container is full of density. So I'm ready to be full of light, and fill me with light. Take all the dense, lower emotions within me. And as that light comes in, it now becomes a discernment tool to you. It's just, you kind of need to call it in and understand you're worthy of love, because you were born that way. When you were a baby, you were perfect love. And you just experience the world,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important for people to understand, is to command it in. So can we talk a little bit, about that, and the importance of commanding, we can command our, avatar, so to speak, to do things, to heal, to balance itself out, to connect, with our divine blueprint. And, let's talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of us, many don't even recognize that we have the power built right inside of us.
Right. After I had my near death, I was kind of blocked off to a lot of the memories. So when they did come back, it was huge. It was like the floodgates opened. I thought I was crazy. All kinds of things, psychic experiences. One of the things I experienced was silhouettes and shadows moving around me from kind of all sides. They would pass in and out, phase in and out. Took me time to realize I was in the center, and they were my projections all the way around me. And their differences in shades and stuff were the differences in their density. That was the type of energy they were made up of: lower energy, higher energy, et cetera, et cetera. So I started to command them. At first I was fearful. And then I was like, no, you are all gathering. And then this is something I do daily, into one energy. And I'm placing you before, I say the Christ, but you can say the central sun. You can say the law of one. You can say whatever God you worship in a singular value. It's a singularity of love. I sacrifice you to love, to become a better person. So I started to command my anger, worry, fear all into the center to become aligned, because they were so spread out in these branches of reality and multidimensionality. You know what I mean? But yeah. So they were so spread out, I had to call them in and tell them to come here, and you're going to stand here, and I take accountability for everything I created.
So those shadow beings were your emotions.
Yeah, projected
That is a
onto like
really
a
cool,
screen.
wow. I just had an aha moment. That's a really cool. When I worked in the hospital for 15 years, I would see shadow beings all the time. And that's putting something in perspective for me right now, because I didn't really correlate it with the denser, lower emotions. And in a hospital setting, that's all there is right? Unless you're having a
Yeah.
baby, right? It's mostly
Right. So this was like my personal bubble. And I'm like, okay, my personal hell at the time, but I mean, once I figured it out, it became my personal heaven. It's crazy. Once I became a more singular aspect, aligned my mind with my heart and my actions, what you think, what you feel, and what you do.
Yeah, and I think too, learning that everything is a projection of what your thoughts are, and it's projecting itself out. And I think as
You have
children,
to, yeah.
yeah, many of us, I know I did. I saw shadow beings when I was a child, and I was just like, go away. I was scared. And at that time, I think I closed off my pineal gland. And then later on, it opened. And then I got back into the hospital setting working with, organ donation. And they were communicating with me so often that it kind of scared me. So I shut it back down again. And now I'm at a point where I see things differently. I'm at a different consciousness state than I was. But I do.
Right. When you can control that polarity in there, like
Yes.
this is my system. As soon as something touches me, I start to feel things change. So I know that, this is my system. No trespassing. Once you have that, they don't really want to come near you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it plays into that fact of the more we release those denser emotions and energies, the higher we vibrate, the faster we vibrate, and they just can't maintain that frequency, So,
and if they do, it's usually just for help,
yes,
or to kind of like move up, because we are here to help them move up in vibration too, because we're really we're defragmenting a very big hard drive, put it that way.
yes.
All these bits of information come back together, getting cleaned so that humanity can evolve its consciousness and expand.
It is too. And those shadow beings and those emotions play a huge role in the thoughts that we have, in our mind as well. And so, when we correlate, we have that cohesion between our mind and our heart. That's when I can really feel that alignment when we have that, what's the term? I forgot what the term that they use, Joe Dispenza, but there's a term that they use when the brain and the heart are in connection. And it's fascinating when that happens.
And that's your neural
Coherence.
interface. Yeah, mind and heart coherence.
Mm-hmm.
Your neural interface and your intuitive module. This is where you're feeling, this is where you're processing. And you want to keep those, in line.
I love that. And I've never heard it that way. What did you call it? What did you say?
This is your neural interface.
Okay.
This is your intuitive module.
Intuitive module. And I love that, because our body isn't like a computer. I always say we're living in a video game, and we can shift it at any moment.
We're not these bodies for sure. We came into these bodies and we animate them with life force energy. Now, how much bandwidth do we have? Because you see the people who are really drawn out and weak and tired, and a lot of it is emotional. And you see the people who have more youthful energy, and they're in their like 70s, because they've lived a more heart-centered life.
It's so true. And I think, for me, for all those years working with death and loss, I was carrying the emotions of others in my little big backpack. It got pretty darn big at some point. And I was just recognizing I was overly emotional. I had so much pain in my body. My nervous system was off the chain. Even now, I look back, I would have certain ringtones on my phone. And, there were, for many years after I left that job, I would be at the grocery store and I would hear that ringtone, and it would take me right back to the anxiety and the panic of getting a phone call. And I've noticed with a couple of my clients one of them was a homicide detective, and another one, I can't remember what his job was, corrections officer or something, but they both said, after we left the job, that the ringtone pulled us right back into PTSD. And so it's like, when you hear a frequency or you see something, because the subconscious works in images, and and then when you connect, it just
pulls up all that pain from your consciousness, your subconscious, and it releases it inside your system.
Absolutely.
It's like the subconscious is like, okay, we can, like we were talking a little bit earlier, we can process it really fast, or we can store a lot of information, have it come out later. It's energy. It's going to want to place itself out physically. And that's what we're seeing in mankind right now. One other thing I wanted to touch on really quick that people can do is just call in their divine blueprint daily, but practice the art of knowing. And this is very simple. I'll ask you a question. You know how to tie your shoes, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And you know how to tie your shoes. It's a feeling. It's something somebody wouldn't even ask. So that knowing is a feeling, just like I know that's a doorknob, it can open the door. I know there's a window I can open. So take that knowing when you're asking for things. I'm claiming my divine blueprint. I am love as an energy, not something anybody needs to decide. I am this simply because it's this, and make it simpler. Okay.
I love that, because I think it is. It's retraining those neural pathways in the brain to know, and it's almost like that autopilot aspect, but let's shift the lower vibrational, denser neural pathway, autopilot aspects to, let's have some more higher vibrational quantum, autopilot aspects.
Call in that light and then apply the knowing to it, because God is constant. It's just the amount of force and amount we avail ourselves to of this energy that cycles through us,
I love that. And, back before too, you tapped in on the importance of breath work and breathing. And I do feel that is so beneficial. And many of us don't even really know how to breathe properly and to really take that in. And I know for me, when I first wake up in the morning, when I'm in that theta state, I really focus on my breath, and I can feel it just rush all the way throughout my body. And there's a really simple technique that you can do to activate the vagus nerve. So it's like basically just taking a deep breath in through your nose and holding it for a second or two, and then breathing out through your mouth as if you're breathing through a straw. And what that will do is it will activate the vagus nerve, and that vagus nerve is totally in correlation with your nervous system. And if you do that several times, you'll begin to notice, that anxiety or that panic or that fear or whatever emotion you might be sensing at the time will start to calm down and start to relax. And just, simple breathing techniques that you can do in the moment, are so beneficial. Yeah. And so
after a while, you can start to feel it and then use it to kind of discern your state of being. Okay, I need to kind of correct myself here or there. Or, man, I feel really great. Let me give this to somebody. And then you cheer up somebody's day. But it's like such a great tool for so many things. But it's so important. Like you say, I go out in nature. I do my breath work in through the nose, out through the mouth. And I feel, and I allow myself to become one with everything,
And you can definitely pick up on that. It's just, and that will also slow down the amygdala too. So that fight, flight, or freeze response. So if there's, anything that you can do in the moment that is simple, it's just to breathe, and you can do box breathing techniques where you breathe in for a count of 3 or 4, hold for a count of 3 or 4, breathe out for a count of 3, just doing simple techniques. And I know that saved me a lot when I was in healthcare and it was a very high stress environment. I would just time to time go sit in a room by myself and just breathe for 10 to 15 minutes and just, shift that energy within my body. And, that is just such an easy thing to do that people don't often think of, When
I first came into it, like I had no experience. I didn't look it up. My body started doing it on its own. And then that's how, when it first started, like years ago. And I just recently, probably in the last year or two, realized the importance of the correlation of pulling that energy up from earth, pulling it down from up above, and having them meet in the middle so I can expand,
Yeah, it's like that toroidal field, around your body that you can really tap into. And like you said, our body knows what to do. And I would encourage people, first thing in the morning, the moment you open your eyes, check in with your body, ask it what it wants, because it will communicate with you. Does it need water? Does it need breath work? Does it need some sort of a mineral, whatever it is, but your body will totally communicate with you. You just have to listen to it. Yeah. So is there anything else that you'd like to add that we haven't touched on?
I would like to say identity. It's like our approval is already in the quantum field. Okay. It's already there. It already says you are this. So if there's something trying to decide your identity, you don't want to sell that for this, because you're not going to get anything in return but a false identity. And that's kind of like what is going on in the world with the darker energies and ascension and the light and dark, is they want to decide your identity before you know it, and plug in and then narrow down your narrow view of the world, and then you are this. They don't want you to understand that you are loved, you are free, you are sovereign, nothing belongs here, et cetera, et cetera. It's a lot of that energy harvesting, things like that, by quantum computers and AI, because we are energetic systems and we're all connected. And don't trade your approval. Doesn't matter if it's to a friend, family, a pair of Nikes, clothes. Be true and authentic, and people are gonna gravitate to you, and they're gonna add to your life rather than drain you.
Absolutely. And it's calling your power back into your body, because many of us are giving our power away to everything under the sun, and a lot of it is just, when you're recognizing you're being drained, ask yourself, where's my power going right now? And command it back in, call it back in to your body, right? Because,
I call all my multidimensional selves into the now. You could say through the singularity, you could say through the Christ, through the law of one, which is bring them all in, and I claim them now. They're mine. There's not going to be nothing out there that anybody co-created with me that I can't take responsibility for. I'm not afraid of my own emotions. I made them.
Absolutely. And to not be afraid to move through those emotions, because emotions are energy in motion. And I think, if you're suffering with anxiety, sit with it and, figure out where it's coming from, and ask the question, is this mine, or is this someone else's, or is this the collective? Because many of us, I know for me, being highly empathic, for years, I was picking up on emotions of others, and then they were tag teaming onto my own emotions. And so once you can recognize, am I picking up on collective energy, or is this my emotion that I need to transmute?
Right. And that brings me to correcting inputs and outputs. Look at yourself like a computer, like you say. Am I going to add on all these junk apps? Because I'm not going to run the same. So I need to correct what I'm putting in, what I'm digesting spiritually in my consciousness, and what I'm placing outside of me and choosing to co-create with, because that's going to be another alternate part of my nervous system that I'm creating with. So just value that. Inputs and outputs. Find those outputs that reinvigorate that passion,
I love that. And I kind of got that analogy in my head with the iPhone. When you have all these different apps open, how fast your battery will drain. But the moment you close all those background apps, everything running in the background, your battery will sustain itself. And so when we're carrying all of this energy or emotions of others, it's draining our energy faster than we can even add energy to it. So,
and then we can't help the people around us that we love, because we're not able to be present. You want to be present for this. It's short.
Absolutely. And it feels good to feel whole and to know that the energy that you're carrying is your energy. And I know for me, I spend a lot of time alone, so I'm pretty good at discerning what my energy is versus others.
Yep.
And then I can tell when I go out shopping or whatnot, I'm standing in the line and I've got a pain in my right back, and I'm like, this is not mine. I can definitely tell.
And you need that time. Yeah, you need that time alone too. Right? You need that time to discern yourself. Yeah. So don't feel lonely or lost or anything. You're just doing your work.
Exactly.
Trust me, there's a lot more beautiful things coming out on the other side when you do that.
And I think that's how we learn our mastery. We learn how to master our own energy and to be able to tap into it and have a better understanding of, how powerful we truly are. I don't even think any of us even really realize how powerful we truly are.
And like you say, it so well because you clean so much of your inside that you can feel the sharp, jagged stuff and things like that. And then that's when we go, well, this is me or not me. And it's not you after doing it as many times as you have.
Yeah. And that'll pick up sometimes when I'm with clients. It'll be like, okay, I'm sensing something. I think that's my one of my stronger communication methods is through that clairsentience and, you know, really feeling that energy. And I at first I thought that that was kind of a, you know, wasn't the greatest of abilities, but now I'm like, man, this is a great, awesome ability. So I've learned to really embrace it and realize it's to my benefit, quite honestly. But it took some time to get there. Well, before we wrap up, Steve, is there anything else that you'd like to share?
I'm sure I'll think of 10 things later. Let's see, not at this moment, other than, let's see if I have any notes here. Just your claiming your divine blueprint and your 0 point energy, how important that is, how it's important it's going to be in the new times to come, where they're computing in that space and it runs through you. Things like that are going to be important to you and your family in order to discern reality. And should I lay out like any of the healing stuff?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about a little bit about what you do and how people can contact you if they feel they resonate and, you know, are guided to you.
Sure. They can contact me through trinityhealingreiki.com. So it's much more than Reiki. It sort of started that way. They can also contact me on Facebook at Trinity Healing. They can contact me through email, trinityhealingreiki@gmail.com, or 860-877-8234. Send me a text. Please be patient, things like that. But basically, I work through the field. I'm able to generate enough energy in myself. I've learned my system enough to where I can use the quantum field to generate polarity and then sort of send myself somewhere. I can concentrate love. I can help program their subconscious and clear out a lot of the trauma that, not only that, I do like sports injury. I've done things with like bad spirits, stuff like that, but it's emotional healing overall. So I can go anywhere in the world, do my session, and have most of my light photons there as I go into a perfect ground state, because I'm able to now send things out. I'm not attached to anything. And that's what the 0 point energy is. It's the lowest ground state of a system. So once you do your purification and you achieve that 0 point field, you can kind of move anywhere by generating thoughts and emotions within your own body, and this sends you out. So I can go over vast distances, offer healing emotionally, physically. Heal.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's the beauty of the quantum field, is that we can really dive into any aspect of whatever it is that the client may be struggling, you know, with. And I think that's what I love working in the quantum, because it goes so deep on such a cellular level too, you know.
And it's so unique and individual. You know, sometimes I'll see loved ones, sometimes I won't. They'll just get a great treatment on their body. Other times they'll get galactic guides. They'll start to get galactics coming in to help them. You know, the first few times that happened to me, I was like, oh man, what is this? And then they're like, just chill out. And they did their work, and the person was kind of like on a table in space. And, you know, clients get taken to various different places. Sometimes they get linked up with past lives and places they've been there. And then their soul tribe comes in to help them. But yeah.
I love that. I you know, that happened to me too. When the galactics came in the first time, I'm like, what energy is this? Because it was so powerful. But I kind of got teary-eyed. And I know there's been sessions where I've worked with people, I activate them in light language oftentimes. And I can tell when it comes through, it's just several different dialects. And I'm like, I'm not really speaking this. I'm kind of just channeling it, you know, through me. And then the client starts speaking it in their hypnosis session. And I'm like, this is just fascinating. So that's what I love about the quantum healing aspects, because it's never the same.
I've also worked with a few people that had cancer, some people that had tumors, one person that was on an operating table. Man, so many various things. It's hard to list them all, but so much is possible on a quantum level. I'd never thought I would be here doing this, being an average person for so long, and then having everything come back. but I'm here and I'm doing it.
Well, I appreciate you for all that you're doing and all the light that you're putting out there into the world. And I know many of us we're kind of in this stage of what is our identity anymore? Because I know for me, it shifts every day. It's like, 1 minute I'm, over here working in, the spirit realm. And then the next minute I'm working with galactics. And it's fascinating. And I think that's just the excitement of working in the quantum realm and to not really attach to anything.
That brings us back to the identity thing too, because we'll have to experience contrast on this planet to understand the other part, and we'll have to experience the other part to understand contrast. And it's a dance. As long as we don't lose that, hey, we're love as identity, no matter where I go. As soon as that's taken, I need to correct that. So that it goes for whatever you're experiencing in the outside world too. As long as you correct this, everything else will correct.
Absolutely.
But yeah, don't lose it. Yeah.
Yeah, aligning with that heart. And I think, many of us have been pulled away from that. And it's, I know I work with a lot of heart walls and heart blocks with people, and it's fascinating, to see how their life shifts after you activate that heart chakra,
Yeah, it's so powerful and beautiful. It's such a sacred experience.
It is. Well, thank you, Steve, for coming on the show today. And I really appreciate your time. And I will add all of your information, below the program as well, for those of you that want to reach out to him, whether it's via podcast or the YouTube channel. But thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you. I hope everybody has a good one.
You deserve to navigate your life as an empath in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.thesoulcafe.org.